Tim Kirby Russia hot takes. Will there be blowback for American sanctions against Russia? Well, the answer to that question sort of depends on your perception of reality. Obviously, if you're watching this channel, you don't have a more positive view of Russia. Say you have a very extremely pessimistic view of Russia. You see that Russia has sort of been for generations already just one big fat gas station. All it is some sort of corrupt, worthless country that produces a lot of oil and natural gas, and that's all it does, right? Now, that stereotype could be kind of founded during the Soviet times, because during the Soviet times, in all honesty, Soviet exports were not that big. We shouldn't forget that the Jackson-Vanik Amendment really didn't allow the Soviet Union to export very much, but still, ultimately, its real selling point was oil and natural gas. In fact, apparently, a lot of the infrastructure, even in capitalist Western Europe, for the use of natural gas that is still being used today, actually was set up during the Cold War, ironically. So, which also is kind of funny because it means that the communist Eastern world and the capitalist Western world actually kind of got along better than Russia and the West do now, which is in some ways kind of scary and kind of sad. But anyways, as sort of food for thought, I recently voiced the main role in a documentary movie about Venezuela, a Russian-made one. And I can tell you, if there's a country that looks like one of these sort of gas station countries where all they produce is oil and natural gas, unfortunately, guys, it looks like that would be actually Venezuela. I mean, during this reporting, and again, these are Russian reporters, so they have nothing against Maduro. They're particularly... They have nothing against Chavez, Maduro, this whole red revolution kind of thing that they had there. They don't particularly care. So the reporting was fairly unbiased, but they did show a couple things, that it is extremely difficult, and in fact, it was seemingly impossible for them to produce even the most basic of medicines, even like headache medicine is not on the table. They had to buy that from abroad. And in fact, they have zero paper products, including physical money. So apparently, despite the fact that they're kind of, near the Amazon, and it doesn't seem like it'd be too hard to set up at least one paper factory in the country, they don't have any of them, okay? So after seeing that documentary, it really did a good job of providing arguments as to why, unfortunately, Venezuela is that sort of gas station country. Now, Russia, however, is not. 30% of the global export of wheat comes from Russia. Yes, I know there's a stereotype that the Russians are always poor and hungry and need to import food for gas. Well, it seems like that's been over for a long time. Which means also that because of American sanctions, the cost of food, especially food with wheat in it, is going up, up, up. There's also all sorts of different, metals like your palladium, platinum, nickel are all going to skyrocket through the roof because a lot of people don't realize that they mostly come from here. Russia not only produces energy, but also sort of the means of creating energy. And a lot of those means revolve around a lot of using metal and high technology, this, that, and the other. So Russia, I think, actually, one of its main problems, although this may not be a problem, who knows what the powers that be in Russia think, is Russia still very much perceived as the Soviet Union gas station when it really isn't anymore. And we can definitely see this, that although, yes, right now in Russia, have things gotten more expensive due to the sort of mini ruble crash? Oh, yeah. Everything at every store is 10 to 20 to 30% more expensive than it was, say, a month ago. But also, if you're looking at the cost at the pump in America, and especially the cost of food in a lot of countries, everything is going up and up and up and up and up. Now, one thing that this reminds me of. Sorry, guys, sometimes I go kind of all over the place with my reasoning with these hot takes, but you want my opinion. If that's why you're here, you want my opinion, so you're going to get it. This reminds me of the logic that former Congressman Ron Paul used to say. He sort of believed that the path to world peace would revolve around interconnecting trade. We'd have so much trade between so many nations that essentially violating this process of trade with aggression and war would essentially be like shooting yourself in the foot. And unfortunately, guys, Mr. Paul seems to be right. And unfortunately, all of these years of propping up that Nazi regime in Kiev, all these years of allowing this war in the Donbass to escalate and build up until this explosion, is starting to come back and shoot Washington in the foot right now. They probably never expected that these sanctions could have some possible blowback, but they are. And not only do I believe that Mr. Paul's advice about trade creating safety and definitely being a disincentive to go to war, Maybe he didn't see it this way, but it's really an argument for a multipolar world. Because obviously, when you have trade, you have to trade between equals. You have to have a trade agreement that's acknowledged by both sides and enforceable by both sides. And well, if you're going to live in a monopolar world where Washington is God and you're all ants, well, that's not going to work very well either. So again, guys, hopefully what is happening now, although it involves a lot of people dying who shouldn't be dead, hopefully after this awfulness is over, we'll see the rise of the multipolar world, and we can start to build again these sort of interconnecting bridges of trade that will really, really demotivate us from trying to start color revolutions in other countries, messing in their internal affairs, and especially starting actual hot wars. So maybe this is going to provide a lesson to certain politicians that the world could be a lot more peaceful and that taking aggressive economic action always has blowback in a globalizing world.